Hello, mate. How's it going?
Good. How are you, buddy?
I'm really well. I'm really well. Thanks so much for coming on at short notice. I know you're really busy over there, and you've been getting in some good trouble, haven't you, mate?
Oh, only the best.
Tell me
Only the
about it.
best.
Tell me. First of all, we know each other from the Action for Assange
Yes.
events that you've hosted over there and helped host in the past. And yeah, you're quite the activist, aren't you, Andrew? And yeah, well, tell me what's been going on in your
So,
life recently.
so a little backstory. Yeah, I organize with Misty and the Action for Assange crew over here in the U.S. Just trying to secure Julian's freedom. We've done that since Julian was trafficked from the embassy in 2019. But most recently here in Ohio, East Palestine happened, right? That big ass train crash. Chemicals blew everywhere. They blew the train up.
A train carrying the highly toxic chemical vinyl chloride derailed and exploded near the Ohio-Pennsylvania border. To prevent a more dangerous explosion, the crew then had to add and burn more toxic chemicals. This created a highly toxic gas that can cause vomiting and breathing troubles and was used as a weapon in the First World War. Huge side effects from burning these toxic chemicals are seen from the wildlife and residents in Ohio. Thousands of fish are found dead, pets are falling sick, and local residents, when returning to Ohio, have reported breathing difficulties and symptoms of asthma. Investigations into why the train derailed show that there was an ineffective oversight by the industry and that the industry has been putting record profits over safety for years. On top of this, train drivers have been warning the government and striking to prevent this kind of horrific accident from happening.
Shortly thereafter. Well, what a lot of people don't know or even realize is that they've shipped that chemical weight, like the literal dirt from the ground, the metal from the trains, they've shipped that all over the country and are burning it. So they've taken a huge environmental disaster and are now essentially replicating it all across at least the East Coast, if not further. But you have burn sites in Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, Minnesota. There's actually a EPA website that shows the full list. So I'll drop that to you here in a little bit. I don't want to like keyboard it up real quick,
Yeah.
but I would recommend people reach out to their local incinerator because most people don't even realize they have a industrial incinerator somewhere near their house. If you're living on the East Coast, at least. So that was happening. The place by me has burned less waste than anyone else on record that's received it. So I
So
don't
where
know
are
if that's a
you?
good thing. I'm by Cleveland. I'm
So
about
so you're in Ohio.
yeah, I'm about 120 miles northwest of where it happened, and they've shipped waste up here now and are burning it near Lake Erie. And in the southern part of the state, there's another incinerator that received over 2,000 tons of waste that have been burning
So
it.
it's not just these chemicals that they've burnt and obviously gone into the atmosphere, which I'll talk to you about in a bit. But there's all the waste, obviously from the trains as well. You're saying that they're burning.
Yeah, like the literal train cars and the metal themselves, they chop it up and ship it out with the dirt from the ground to send to incinerators to be burned, melted, and then sent to a landfill.
So so
And
what have you been doing as with regards to obviously to fight back against this, Andrew? Because I saw a little bit of a tweet that you did the other
yeah,
day, and that's why I asked you to come on. Tell me about what's happened, what you've done about
so
this.
yeah, so that's where my activism picks up. There's an incinerator site by me that's burned 500 tons of waste, and they were in the process of getting 200 acres rezoned to a heavy industrial area to be able to open a chemical landfill to put that waste that they've burned from East Palestine and every other place that they
So
burned
that's
stuff from.
500 tons. What percentage of the whole thing is this?
Um, the
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 500
East
tons. I mean, how much
the
more is there?
oh, there according to the EPA, there's still like 30,000 tons, and that's according to the EPA. So like they're saying
Whoa!
there's this like they've sent out this much, right? Probably about 15 to 20%, and there's still 30 tons, if not more, of waste that needs shipped and burned across the country. They've been sending wastewater to Texas, and they're literally just shooting it into the ground. They're basically reverse fracking the wastewater. So I took a stand against the
Awesome.
landfill locally. There are some people that are fighting the incineration. I think that should be fought as well. But I really picked up when I realized that they were trying to build a landfill here right next to Lake Erie to put it in. Um, so I went to a city council meeting. This is where the fun picks up. So I had a friend tell me what was going on. I went to a city council meeting. And the whole community was literally like, we don't want this. We don't want to be poisoned. We don't want this landfill here. We don't even want your incinerator here. And no one was really making a fuss of it, right? Like no one was actually standing up and saying no. So it came my turn to speak. I stood up and I'm loud, like I don't have an inside voice. So I started shouting at them. And according to them, they said, I'll read the front page
Have you
paper.
got a recording of it, Andrew, by any chance?
No. There's not a recording,
Okay.
but there is probably the coolest picture of me that's ever been taken. Like Emma got a whole bunch of awesome ones, and
That's
this one's
brilliant.
like top 3. So it says Andrew Smith in bowler hat and tie leaves Eaton Township Zoning Commission meeting Wednesday night after shouting about class warfare between Eaton Township residents and the Environmental Service Company. He was escorted from the town hall by 2 Lorain County Sheriff's deputies. The article also cites me as saying I brought my megaphone because I don't own a rifle, which is one. I don't own any guns. It's 100% accurate. I own like 14 megaphones, so. So
Words are far more dangerous anyway, aren't they,
right,
Andrew?
and by the time that I would need a rifle, I'm not going to use it anyways, you know.
Right.
But so I was trying to figure out what I could do. Right, like okay, I got pulled out of this meeting. I made
So
front page of
what
the
did you
newspaper.
say at the meeting? What did you say?
So I looked around the room and I told a bunch of these grown ass men with like veterans hats and shit. I was like, bring your rifles. Like, Ohio is an open carry state. Like, there is no reason and nothing they can say to you for bringing a rifle to a public meeting.
It'd get them very nervous. Though it'd certainly get them paying attention, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well,
I'm not. We're
I
not
never
inciting
planned
violence
on
here.
scaring anybody. I had planned on rallying the townsfolk and making it like a scene, I guess, you know, getting them the front page picture in the newspaper. And so I spent a couple days trying to figure out what to do next. And I'll screen share this real quick because I made a fun little so I made one wanted poster originally, and I sent it to the local newspaper that ran the article with me on the front page, and it had the face and the name from the environmental company's website of one of their CEOs. The newspaper told me, we're not running your ad. Like, we're not putting it in the paper. We don't want your money. And I'm like, okay, well, tomorrow's St. Patrick's Day. So I took my fun little hat
Yeah.
and I went running around passing out flyers
Well, you look
for.
the part there, right? In that.
Oh yeah, no, it was perfect. They have the best images of me. Like, it's crazy. They have one of me stalking through the community college hallways, and it's just completely black, and all you see is like this ring from my bowler derby. It's the coolest picture. It's my desktop background on my phone. But I go to the community college. I meet the student senate president, and he tells me, do whatever you want. Right. So I go crazy. I go through like 5 or 6 buildings, changing out door signs, putting flyers on tables, talking to everybody. And the school's almost closed at this point because it's the last day of spring break. So technically they closed at 8, but they were technically open till 10. Like, the whole school had been locked up 2 hours early. And I had people that I randomly met that kept letting me back into the school when I'd go get more flyers. But so I did that, and then I went to 7 different bars and a couple different gas stations and just passed out flyers to everybody, made friends with bar owners, explained the situation with the environmental service and the burn and the landfill to everybody, and just kept going. Like, it was literally from I started Friday and I basically went all the way through Sunday night as hard and fast as I could. And Monday, when I get home from work, there's a little red slip sitting in my fence from the sheriffs that say I have a restraining order put against me by 5 members of the Ross Environmental Services Board. And I want to read this because this is something I think it's hilarious, just because of the world we live in, but it's scary that a judge will actually give someone a restraining order that writes in this language, right? So it's an unfortunate reality in the light of current social media platforms. Certain individuals choose to advance their agendas through serious threats and intimidation rather than by reason and conversation. Andrew Z. Smith is one such individual, and frankly, he has the executive management team at the Environmental Services in fear of their lives. We had an application before Eaton Township trustees to rezone a parcel of land contingent to the incinerator facility. In regards to the ash contents to be landfilled, it is far less of a concern to the public than everyday cleaning supplies found in the average home. Regardless of the proposed monofill, will be regulated and monitored by the Ohio EPA and will contain multiple safeguards to protect the community. Ross had their public meeting to educate the public about the monofill and the operations in the community. Unfortunately, Mr. Smith opposes the monofill, and no amount of scientific data can change his mind. While every citizen is entitled to believe what they want to believe, Mr. Smith has chosen to resort to serious threats of violence in an effort to advance his personal interest. On March 8th, Mr. Smith appeared at the zoning meeting and immediately began spouting unsupported conspiracy theories concerning the environmental company and its executives, and encouraged all attendees to bring their guns to future meetings. Mr. Smith, a bearded man in a black bowler derby, long black coat and tie, rose to speak at March 8th and said he was from Elyria and that he had brought his megaphone because, quote, I don't own a rifle. He then began shouting at the top of his lungs about class warfare and the divide between the environmental services and local township residents before he was escorted out by local sheriffs. And it keeps going, but there's not really too many more like incendiary comments.
Well,
But they,
this is just one person, though, and I mean, as great as you fantastic, and you need to be wearing a cape, as far as I'm concerned. It's heroic what you're doing, but I mean, it's just one person, and they've
right,
flipped out. They've
right,
lost their shit, haven't they?
and I'm goofy as fuck, dude. We've known each other for a long time. Like
You're one of
they
the
literally
biggest
have a picture
pacifists
of.
I know.
I found push pins in a bulletin board, and I started doing a happy dance down the hallway because I could go hang my posters up. And then they submitted my happy dance as like evidence of intimidation.
So how is it left now? Then have you still got this restraining order against you?
Yep. I go. So, long story short, the monofill, the landfill got shut down. The township voted no on it. There's
Brilliant.
appeals and all that stuff, but so they voted no on Wednesday, and then next Friday I go to court for the restraining order on the 31st.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's the. Let me show you this because it's insane. 5 pages, 5 separate restraining orders. It's literally an entire massive packet. But this is the. Let me see if I can get it.
For just one speech at a town hall meeting or whatever.
One speech at a town hall meeting and a spooky looking.
That makes you. That's really cool, mate. That's fun. It looks like you should be wearing a V for Vendetta mask in that photo. I got
right.
They are making you look as spooky as possible, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And like I think it's hilarious. Like in a lot of ways, it is funny because like I'm literally an international human rights activist. Like the last thing I want is for anyone to get hurt in this whole process. But the fact that they frame me in this way is scary. Like a judge literally approved a restraining order saying that I am a science denying conspiracy theorist vigilante organizer.
Okay, conspiracy theorists. I've heard them say you've obviously heard them call you this now, conspiracy theorists. What is this conspiracy? Why are they calling you a conspiracy? What were you saying for them to call you a conspiracy theorist?
I have absolutely no idea. That's the entire thing. Is like I could see them being like, "Oh, we told him the science, and he doesn't believe science." But there's literally no conspiracy to theorize about. Like there's nothing I've said in this whole thing that's a conspiracy.
Okay,
Right? That's the crazy part.
Yeah. Now, has been the media, the cable media sort of coverage, the mainstream media coverage, sort of this and the Ohio derailment itself? Has it been as sparse as I think it's been? Because it seems like the only
So
news about this in America has been on TikTok.
yes, so the mainstream media is trash. We all know that. All the way CNN, Fox News, you go full
Yes.
spectrum. It's actually been the local news here in Ohio that's done a really good job.
Okay.
That's how I found out about all this. Is I literally looked in the local newspaper and I was like, "Holy shit! They received how many tons of waste?" And then kind of started from there. So, that's why I would encourage everyone to check your local media. I'll send the link to Gordon for the EPA website of where you
Please do,
can
and I'll
go
put
to
all the links
find
to
the
this
different
below.
incinerators. But they're literally everywhere. If you're on the East Coast, you're smack next to it. But so I want to use this as a point to talk about conspiracy theories, if we could.
Yeah, please
Bill
do. I
Gates
want to
just
talk
brought,
about them. That's my
yeah,
bag, baby.
Bill. So this is a two-part thing, right? So Bill Gates just bought up all this farmland. They just spread all of this incinerator waste all over the East Coast, which I don't know where he bought farmland at, but the center of the country and the West Coast is relatively incinerator free. It's the East Coast that's full of it. And the EPA has an organization within it, a sub-organization that goes around and does environmental testing, right? Test the ground, test the water, test the air. And there's this term called dioxin, which I don't know much about what it means. I
It
just know
means
that literally,
two oxygen molecules.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. It literally means two oxygen.
Yeah.
Um, well, the EPA has the legal authority to seize a house if it's sitting on land that is 1 part per billion of dioxin. And they have the right to, not the right, they have the legal authority to cease farming activity on a property at 1/2 part per billion of dioxin.
And you think this will increase the dioxins in the ground or whatever it is
Right.
to
I think
have
I
a
think
land
they're
grab?
taking the waste from East Palestine,
Okay.
spreading it across the East Coast and burning it in an anti-competitive fashion to allow for that farmland to get seized in future land grabs by the EPA.
Because this originally this was a burn, wasn't it? I think the train was on fire, and then they did what they call a controlled burn, which
Mhm.
has released this shit into the atmosphere. And I want to talk about that in a bit, if you don't mind. But what's the second part
Yeah.
of your theory?
So I think that we've seen what the CDC will do on behalf of Bill Gates over these last 3 years,
Mhm.
right? And now he is the
Yeah, he's not a
single
doctor.
largest.
Not a doctor. Never did a medical exam in his life. Never. Not a
He's
doctor.
also not a farmer, right?
Not a
And
farmer.
he now
Not a
owns more
doctor.
farmland.
No,
And the
it's not. He's
EPA,
not even a really computer guy.
no,
He's just packages other people's crap and managed to, hijack it and put it on everybody's computer. That's really all he is. That's all he is, and a good
yeah,
friend of Jeffrey Epstein's, of course.
yeah. Well,
But
he's
please carry
dead,
on.
so
Sorry, carry on. I interrupted. I do apologize.
no, you're fine. But so the Bill Gates buys all this farmland. We're now burning chemical waste all across the country in farmland rural areas because they don't burn this shit in New York City, right? They burn it out in the country where less people live. So my concern is that Gates will have the power, the political power, to use the EPA to seize the land that has two oxygens in it
Mhm.
to stop local farmers in an attempt to more monopolize the farming industry for the land that he controls.
This is next level shit, isn't it, Andrew?
And I want to be wrong, like, but
I know what you
I don't
mean.
want to see something like this 4 years
Listen,
down the road and not have done my best to fucking remedy.
I know what you mean. It's out there, and to anybody who's like, let's be honest here, to anybody who's like just not or a passing interest in the news, and this still thinks that the UK are a force for good in the world, or the US are a force for good. Their foreign policy is
God
excellent.
bless those people,
For
man.
anybody who still thinks that, it's out there, isn't it, to think Bill Gates is doing this and that this is next level. But I just want to let me just share my screen with it. I just want to go through a little bit of what has happened here with this derailment,
Yeah.
because as it says here, this was a burn of vinyl chloride, wasn't it? Right. And hopefully you can see the screen, can't you?
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
see it
right.
on my
Okay.
side.
So when burned or heated to a high enough temperature, vinyl chloride decomposes into hydrogen chloride. Right. This, Andrew, was a weapon that the Germans used in World War One against the Russians. This was a chemical weapon that was used. And I'm going to show it. And this is not me being a conspiracy theorist, and you're talking about the EPA there and chemistry and etc. Okay, well, explain
Europe
this.
is actually still dealing with birth defects caused by phosgene after all of these years because of how hard and impossible it is to remove from the former battlefields.
Yeah, these are carcinogens that you will have, severe health problems going decades in the future from, just a small, tiny exposure. This was used in World War One, and hydrogen chloride gas and hydrochloric acid have the same chemical formula, and that's why this is so. This gas that was released from the vinyl chloride. Let's get it right. The hydrogen chloride, which was released, it was one of the gases that was released. That dilutes in water. It binds with water. It's called an aqueous solution, as you can see there. That's the technical, the chemist sort of term for it. So, and when it binds with water, it becomes hydrochloric acid. This is what the Germans, one of the chemicals that they used against the Russians in World War One. So this is the famous attack. There's a Wikipedia for it. It's called the Attack of the Dead Men. So there was this fortress, the Battle of the Auschwitz Fortress, it's called, and it's 1915. And the Germans are trying to take this fort that the Russians hold, and it's on the corner of, a river and a junction. It's a real important strategic place for the Germans to take. And it was held by just 900 Russians. And obviously trench warfare is big in World War One, and they can't make any head grounds. The Germans can't. They make attack after attack after attack. They couldn't make any headway, and they'd come to sort of like a stalemate in the battle. There's pictures of the fortress. Look, and you can see here. I think it's on this. So here's the first details of the first German assault in 1914, then February to March in 1915, and the third battle. That was the chemical attack. They were desperate to try and take this fort. And a junior ranking Russian officer was looking out one day, and there hadn't been much battles at all. It was sort of like a lull in the battle. He looked out, and the Germans were sort of on top of the trench, captains and high up ranking, and looking up at the sky and looking down. And he didn't think anything of it. There'd been no attacks for anything. He was a junior officer, so he didn't report it. But then a few days later, he looked out, and the men in Russia, and there was this cloud coming towards them, right? A dark cloud, and the apparently from people who were there and obviously died afterwards, you could hear in front of this cloud as the birds were literally dropping out of the sky, right? And you could see the plant life just shriveling up and dying in front of it. And the Germans weren't using chemical warfare in World War One. They didn't use it at all. Sorry, the Germans used it, but the Russians didn't. And the Russians had no gas masks. This is why they went after them with this hydrochloric gas. Now, because it binds with water, people were wrapping, obviously stuff around their mouths to try and stop this, wet rags around their mouths to try and stop this gas. But because it's an aqueous solution, it was binding with the water in the towel and just choking them to death. They were coughing up lungs and all sorts of stuff. And that was a mixture of bromine and chlorine that they used that caused this hydrochloric acid. And I know you've seen some of this stuff, mate, right? But I know some of the people watching this won't have. But let's just have a look, shall we, at what this cloud looked like and what this looked like for the residents of Ohio. So this is TikTok. Whoops. That's the train crash itself.
To prevent a more dangerous explosion, the crew then had to add and burn more toxic chemicals. This created a highly toxic gas that can cause.
I mean, look at that. That's incredible. And this was what, 120 miles from you, Andrew?
Yep, 120 miles southeast.
And breathing troubles.
The scarier part, so if you actually look at like wind direction and weather maps from South American sources, like if you try to go to North American like weather.com and shit like that, it doesn't show up. But if you go to South American weather maps, you can actually see the direction of the wind when they detonated this and the plume that blew off. And they literally sent this directly at Pittsburgh. Like the wind was blowing southeast, and it is about 30 minutes south. This is 30 minutes northwest of Pittsburgh,
which is
they blew this shit
one
up,
of the
and
biggest cities in America, right?
onto one of the biggest metro areas in the United States.
In the First World War, huge side effects from burning these toxic chemicals are seen from the wildlife and residents in Ohio. Thousands of fish are found dead. Pets are falling sick, and local residents, when returning to Ohio, have reported breathing difficulties and symptoms of asthma. Investigations into why the train derailed show that there was an ineffective oversight by the industry, and that the industry has been putting record profits over safety for years.
It's just the same story over and over again, isn't it? This is the cloud I was talking about. Look at this.
These aren't storm clouds. This is a fucking shit that they burn off.
I mean, that's what it would have looked like for those soldiers in World War One. Obviously, that was a higher concentration back then. But this essentially is hydrochloric acid that is over that guy's head.
So we had clouds like that as far north as Cleveland. And I don't know if it was from the incinerator or a few days after from just wind drift from the explosion. But like, they blew that shit up, and then for 2 weeks it was 70 degrees here in Northeast Ohio, like in the middle of February.
You guys are going to have to start doing your own testing, because you can't rely on, the EPA. Look at what we've just had with Fauci and the NIH. I mean, these people are they're
and the EPA, all the EPA, to my knowledge, all they're really testing for is these dioxins, the two oxygen molecules. And I don't even know if they're actually going around testing to see if there's phosgene exposure in the soil or anything like that. And like, that's the problem, is they're going to use this as a way to fail forward and be like, oh, now people can't live in Amish country. Your whole way of life is destroyed.
Yeah. And obviously there's going to be more overreach and more grabbing. It's incredible. Look at this have you seen this one from the sky?
I haven't. I saw a satellite image. I hadn't seen this.
This is from a plane that was flying over. Look at that. No, I'm no chemist, mate. Right?
And I'm the one that gets a fucking restraining order.
Exactly.
Right? Like, I'm the one that gets in trouble for sounding an alarm about a landfill they're trying to put this shit in. But they can do this. Like, that's the class warfare I'm talking about. Like, this is violence. This actually hurt people. This is going to hurt people for 10 generations to come, and this land will be unusable.
Yeah, I mean,
in some portions.
The health issues. And it's telling, isn't it? And I'll come to that in a minute, actually. I'll come to that in a minute. You can see here, there's another one with the water. And people have been showing this. Look at what happens when they chuck a brick into... And these are all the creeks and what have you near you that are obviously feeding into an already... how bad the American water system is legendary for in other countries. I mean, it's just going to get worse, isn't it?
Did you hear about the nuclear waste leak that happened that they didn't tell anyone about?
Yes, I heard about that yesterday.
Isn't that fucking crazy? They're literally just
leaking nuclear water, wasn't it? Nuclear.
Yep, nuclear wastewater on the Mississippi River, and they didn't tell anyone for 4 months. They were like, "No, we're cool." Right, incredible. and then I hear the right, these local people are trying to build a fucking toxic chemical landfill right next to the Black River that feeds into Lake Erie, and you don't even have to tell that fucking nuclear radiation spilled for 4 months. Like, when the hell are we gonna find out about what the fuck happened here if they built it? It's just insane. It's
just a race to the bottom, isn't it? And obviously, because obviously worldwide the news hasn't been on this. I mean, this is, you're just looking at those pictures. It's incredible that it's literally that this wasn't on a loop all around the world, was it? It's incredible. I mean, that is a Chernobyl level event. Yeah. I think looking at the size of it, that they are just trying to hush up here in the media, and the conformity of the Western media dictators, as Chomsky has said, they must look on in awe at the way the Western media was all sort of kept a lid on this. And obviously the way people found out about it globally was through TikTok. And how have they responded? But they're going to ban TikTok, aren't they? They're going to ban TikTok. I'm going to show you this. Who is it again? I've got to get used to these controls. As I said here on this tweet, they're not banning TikTok because they're worried about China spying on anyone. These governments are banning TikTok because the public are sharing information with each other on a platform that those governments don't control. And that's what this is about. Because if you can control the algorithm, you control what people see. And that's what this is all about. And people sharing this information and information on Biden being the Nord Stream bomber on these channels is really causing a problem for those who are in this information war, trying to keep information from the public in your country, in mine, and in Western Europe. This lady, I remember doing it. She did a fantastic video about this.
I agree that there's some weird shit going on with that Ohio train wreck, right? Like, you're telling me that this and this didn't do anything to the air quality. You're telling me there was no change and the air is perfectly fine over there. That makes me question, like, how confident we can be in, like, the weather apps. There's just no way. There's just no way. Not to mention this reporter getting arrested for reporting on it. There's videos of dead fish in a river 2 miles away from where the crash happened. And I've heard that people's, like, chickens and their animals and stuff have been dying too. And apparently they're letting the, like, residents and people go back to their homes and go back like nothing happened. Everything about this is just concerning, and I'm not confident about the, like, accuracy of these reports.
Is there any way that people can, like, get there and do their own reporting on this, Andrew? Because, you know, what's it like? Are the reporters being shielded away from it, or is it just the local news that are accepted over there?
Well, so I believe it was one of Max Blumenthal's buddies was coming out here to do filming, and that's the gentleman that actually got arrested, was an indie journalist that had come out here specifically to cover it. I don't know the exact details, and I haven't gone there myself yet, but I need to. I need to literally just go down there with a camera and talk.
It worries me that independent journalists are being arrested, but the card-carrying members of the mainstream media are being let through. This is the way dictatorships work with their media. This is not the way democracies work at all. You need a media holding power to account for. I've been saying this for years. I feel like I'm a broken record at this point. This is really worrying, isn't it? And obviously they're responding by ramping up the banning of TikTok. Have you seen the testimony of the guy?
I've seen some of the testimony. I didn't watch the full congressional hearing on it yet.
Okay, just watch this.
Screen for a short video, if you don't mind.
I'm sorry. People have been taking the piss because it's so funny. Have you seen this guy?
No, I haven't.
It's 4 minutes, Andrew. I'm going to show, if you don't mind. I know you haven't.
Yeah, no, this is
but
great.
It's 4 minutes. You have to listen to this guy.
I want to ask you, because I understand that there's a sister app in China. I'm sorry if I'm butchering the pronunciation. Do they have these same things over there? Do they have these kind of challenges in China?
Congressman, I'm really glad you asked this question.
Do they? Yes or no?
I'm not sure because.
Yeah, whoa, come on now. You're not sure?
I really am not sure.
Well, he's not from China, you see.
The chair
the guy's from Singapore.
Okay? Challenges like this over in China, because it's my understanding they don't.
I had to bury the,
I'm not sure because I spend my energies running TikTok.
And you don't look at any of your other competitors or look at anything similar to yours, so you don't know whether they don't have this over in China.
I did.
We have it here, but they don't have it here, and that's why I'm asking you this. Why is it that TikTok consistently fails to identify and moderate these kinds of harmful videos? Why is it? Why is it that you allow this to go on? We've only heard, God bless you, from parents who.
He'll let him answer in a minute.
Children. I submit to you, everybody up here cares about the children of this country. Tell me why.
This is a real industry challenge, and we're working
No, it's
very
not
hard.
industry. This is TikTok.
It's
We're
a challenge.
talking about TikTok.
He's talking about like the censorship of harmful, what they deem harmful videos, and he took obviously a few examples from the fringes. They did this with all sorts of social media. We've been through this to bring it into sort of control of the government, and they're doing it now with TikTok.
We're talking about why is it that you can't control this? And although I believe in giving credit where credit's due, I want to thank you. It's my understanding that the video that threatened life with the chairwoman has been removed. Thank you for doing that. Sorry we had to bring it to your attention here, but it's been removed.
So there was one video that threatened the life of the chairwoman, and they're making a big deal about it. There was just one video. I mean, you could just one example. It's
out of like 1.5 billion, 2 billion videos on the platform, just one. That's crazy.
Why this goes on?
It doesn't get better. This doesn't, by the way. It gets much worse.
I want to shift gears real quick. I want to talk about biometric matrix and
biometric matrix. He sounds like an
matrix.
expert, isn't he? You can see this guy's an expert straight away.
Specifically, can you tell me right now? Can you say with 100% certainty that TikTok does not use the phone's camera to determine whether the content that elicits a pupil dilation should be amplified by the algorithm? Can you tell me that?
We do not collect body, face, or voice data to identify our users. We do not. The only face data that you get that we collect is when you use the filters to have, say, sunglasses on your face. We need to know where your eyes are.
Why do you need to know where the eyes are if you're not seeing if they're dilated?
And that data is stored on your local device and deleted after you use it for facial. Again, we do not collect body, face, or voice data to identify our users.
I find that hard to believe. It's our understanding.
Why would you need to know where the eyes are? Put sunglasses on, folks. just put them in the middle of the screen.
Age gating is our key age assurance. Gating, which is when you ask the user. We have also developed some tools where we look at their public profile to go through the videos that they post to see whether.
Oh, that's creepy. Tell me more about that.
It's public. So if you choose that video to go public, that's how you get people to see your video. We look at those to see if it matches up the age that you talked about. Now, this is a real challenge for our industry because privacy versus age assurance is a really big problem.
Look, you keep talking about the industry. We're talking about TikTok here. We're talking about children dying. Do you know how many children have died because of this? Do you have any idea? Can you tell me?
Congressman, again, it's heartbreaking.
Can you tell me how many children in America have died because of challenges like this?
Can you tell me, Andrew, how many children have died in China because of challenges to do with an app that you've got no control of over in that? Do you understand
so
how
is
dangerous this
is he talking about challenges like actual like difficulties or literally like TikTok challenge, like the Tide Pod challenge and shit like that? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I bet you if I looked, this guy would have definitely voted for sanctions packages up the wazoo. They're going to kill children all around the world by starving them to death and denying them medicine. This guy doesn't give a shit about anybody in America. I bet you he's not talking about Ohio, Palestine, is he?
Oh, no, definitely not.
It gets better.
Use it for positive experiences.
And that's not what I asked you. I asked you, tell me the number of children, of U.S. children who have died because of these challenges.
Congressman, again, the majority of people who come on our platform get a good
I'm not talking about the majority of children. I want to know a number.
Dangerous challenges are not.
That dude looks like he eats Tide Pod.
And then we will remove them. We take this very seriously.
Obviously, you found one today and you removed it. We had to bring it to your attention, and I know I'm out of time.
Like if TikTok, like if you're on TikTok, like can TikTok control your Wi-Fi?
Mr. Chu, does TikTok access the home Wi-Fi network?
Only if the user turns on the Wi-Fi. I'm sorry, I may not understand the.
So if I have a TikTok app on my phone and my phone is on my home Wi-Fi network, does TikTok access that network?
It will have to access the network to get connections to the internet, if that's the question.
Is it possible then that it could access other devices on that home Wi-Fi network?
Congressman, we do not do anything that is beyond any industry norms. I believe the answer to your question is no. It could be technical. Let me get back to you.
Okay, I'd appreciate it if you can answer that.
And this guy, and this TikTok's just the best place to find reactions from people. This is glorious. His reaction to it is fantastic.
I'm in the country of Romania, and they just
This is Romanian.
question that one of the U.S. senator asked the Mr. I think he's Mr. Shaw, the CEO of TikTok. Does TikTok
Does TikTok control the Wi-Fi?
does TikTok access the Wi-Fi?
No, but no.
Listen.
And the CEO replied, only if the users It's like if you say, if you activate the airplane mode, do you control the plane?
Oh, that's awesome.
Why control the national electric?
That's great.
I saw it. Somebody post on Twitter. I'm watching this guy reply to the senators, and all I can say is I'm really ashamed for America on the world stage, because it was comical. It was so bad. It really was.
Well, that's two major committees in a row now, if not three, right? Like Russiagate fell apart in committees a while ago, but you've had the Matt Taibbi FBI, CIA committees, and now this one that are literally just a joke. Like the fact that there's resistance, like to the Twitter files, like we all know that this is happening. We literally all know that the fucking
it's the tip of the iceberg. It's the tip of the iceberg. You know, this is just the Twitter files, and you know, from what you can see from the Twitter, there was some sort of pushback from Twitter, even if it was the minimal. Imagine there's going to be no pushback at Facebook. There's going to be none at Google. There's going to be none at YouTube. You know, then you've got Reddit, and you've got all these other social. They're all there's going to be something similar to the Twitter files for them all, isn't there?
Yep.
This is how the control.
And that's the part that no one's talking about. Like, here's the Twitter dashboard, right? We can see what the FBI could use for Twitter. Where's the Facebook dashboard? Where's the LinkedIn dashboard? Where's the YouTube dashboard?
And this is if this is the FBI in America doing this, then what are MI5 and GCHQ doing in the UK? What are Mossad doing in Israel? What are the gendarmes or whatever doing in France? And you can all over the Western world. It's going to be a similar case, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And that's so have you read the article in Newsweek about signature reduction?
No, I haven't.
It's basically, if you just Google Newsweek signature reduction, it's the new COINTELPRO. It's basically COINTELPRO, like the FBI CIA infiltration of activist organizations.
Signature reduction?
Yep, signature reduction. This is the only article that's ever been written on it, to my knowledge. The Newsweek one, but it's literally what this article talks about, being able to have
inside the military secret undercover army. That one.
Yep, there's basically the Pentagon has a secret 60,000 person army within the United States. And it goes as far as to have fake biometric data, such as artificial hands and human oil, like human sweat, that can be emitted from them. But it also talks about the manipulation of social media.
60,000 people now belong to this secret army, many working under masked identities and in low profile, all part of the broad program called Signature Reduction. The force, more than 10 times the size of the clandestine elements of the CIA, carries out domestic and foreign assignments, both in military uniforms and under civilian cover. Wow! Haven't you got like amendments that are meant to stop this shit, Andrew?
Not
in real life and online, sometimes hiding in private businesses and consultancies, some of them household. This is COINTELPRO on
this is the 2022 version of COINTELPRO, And it gets so scary that there's somewhere in the article, it talks about how in Washington state, the CIA had installed someone that had the ability to control all of the records of all of the drivers. So if there was an agent that was getting pulled over in Washington state, this person could go in real time as they were getting pulled over, edit their driving record, history, driver's license information. So the police check it, it's cleared, and then they unedit it back to whatever the original.
And there's no record of it ever being
right. It's literally like what you would think about as the term like net running from cyberpunks and things like that.
Right. You'd like nothing will be real. Literally nothing that you could, everything will be manipulated. Nothing will be real. That's astounding. Just as biometrics and real ID are the enemies of clandestine work, so too is the digital exhaust of online life. Counterterrorism work in the ISIS Asia. I'll have a good look at that. I'll put that link down in the underneath this video as well. Andrew, yeah. Oh, by the way, you can see which side the UK, the US government are on here. While they're, I mean, has Biden even been to Ohio? I know Trump made an appearance for the cameras, but Biden, he's hardly spoke about it, has he?
Oh no, barely at all.
What did he say when asked? We should send more weapons to Ukraine.
And Pete Buttigieg, I believe he said that we have the most diverse crew ever working to clean up the mess.
Well, that's all that matters, doesn't it?
Isn't that great?
It doesn't matter that you've got a large, Chernobyl like event on your doorstep. What matters is the train driver was a black lesbian.
Well, the person cleaning it up is a black lesbian.
Oh, sorry, the person with the broom.
Right. The person that's going to be poisoned, that doesn't have health care, that doesn't have a means to get another job once they can't see because they go blind from the chemicals binding with their eyes.
Did you see that Erin Brockovich made a visit to Ohio?
I didn't know that. I know Spike Cohen was working his way down there this week. I didn't have a chance to visit him, but he was in.
Erin Brockovich, who, if those of you don't know, there's a film about her with Julia Roberts, and she basically used her sex appeal to start a class action lawsuit against a bunch of people who were poisoned from groundwater, strangely enough. Isn't that? So she goes down to Ohio and pays people a visit and starts meeting people who are saying, yeah, my animals have died and I've got these health problems and that health problems. And she goes in front of the cameras and does a report.
I'm environmental advocate Erin Brockovich. You know I've fought corporate polluters, and it's time, once again, to fight. Ohio lawyers from Bevan and Associates, myself and others, are holding a town hall meeting to organize and fight back. Come to East Palestine High Friday the 24th at 6 p.m. or go to eastpalestinejustice.com. Join us. Let's fight together.
So she starts getting them together to start telling me all about your injuries and what have you. And it's the beginnings of another Erin Brockovich class action lawsuit looking like. And the Ohio police, I shit you not, mate, designated her a terrorist.
I heard that they did designate her a terrorist. I didn't know why, though.
That was the result, because she was, here we go, Yahoo News. Share screen. I know it's Yahoo, but Ohio law enforcement links Erin Brockovich to potential for special interest terrorism threat in East Palestine. And this is all because she decided to go down there and start to get people together.
And they're trying to find a way to shut her down.
And here you go. That's what happens. So what I suggest, Andrew, is that people do more of the stuff that you're doing and start making some good trouble. And start making
and do it about. My thing is, do it for absolutely anything you believe in, right? Like the chemical waste here, it affects me personally. That's why I stood up for it the way that I did. Pull up your local news and find what is happening in your community and take a stand for it. You don't have to put on a bowler hat and get pulled out by sheriffs, but you can pass out flyers and have no one even know your name.
That's the thing. If you wear the bowler hat, you look really cool while you do it.
Exactly. I would like it to be like a calling card of international anarchists and Assangists. Just like you see a dude with a bowler hat and you're like, okay, I know what he's doing, you know?
That would be really cool, wouldn't it? Be like that photo with the guy with the apple on his face.
Right. And then right, so I love the Guy Fawkes mask. I have them all over my house. It's in my car, it's in my place of work. It like hangs up on the wall of my shop. But they're major corporations make money whenever we buy those, right? These are handmade. This is a handmade bowler hat. It costs like 40 bucks. There's someone that made this by hand with their artisan skill, you know, so I would for what it's worth, I think it would be a much more entertaining way for us to be able to identify ourselves on a larger scale.
Absolutely, and again, a real craftsman gets some bread in the process. Andrew, thanks so much, man. Thanks so much for coming on. I know you haven't got time, and you gotta run off to get a lawyer. Is there anything I haven't covered you want to talk about while I've got you?
No, just don't lose faith. Just keep fighting. We're all
absolutely. Thanks so much for what you're doing. Thanks for keep fighting for the people of Ohio. Keep fighting for Assange.
Thank you, sir.
Zygmunt, everybody.